Everybody can hear me? Yeah, I knew I shouldn't have followed Greg. He's too good at what he does. And don't believe everything he says, by the way. I could probably cry, but I won't, or I'll try not to. This is a really important night for the Academy. I got a taste of what it's like to be a founder. And I'll tell you, we've been making all kinds of changes over the last 2 years. And finally, we got the model to work. And we're so proud of tonight. But I do want to welcome some lovely people. And I'll tell you, I've been out there networking for the last couple of years. And I can't tell you how many just nice people I've met. Forget the students for a moment, because they're precious. But the people I've met, most of which are on in age, have done financially well, very successful careers, and they can't give enough back to these kids. And you can watch television and you never hear about these people, you never read about these people, but I'll tell you, they're out there. And I love them as much as I love our students. So I want to welcome some of the partners we have tonight. We have friends of the Academy, and we have the Academy members. I think tonight we've had total altogether of the member students, a total of 7. And so Reach, I think Reach is, where is Reach? There they are in the back. So they're one of our schools that we sponsor. Reach is a great program. It's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And what they do is they literally reach out to these kids, and they provide summer programs. I think it's 6 weeks altogether. They provide 20 Saturdays during the school year, and it's all academic. I mean, all academic. And so they enhance the academic side, which is the classroom, by probably about 30% when you do the math, right? And they're just great kids, and now they're members of the Academy. We have Notre Dame of Manhattan. I think they're off to my right. It's an all-girls high school. And we have now 6 students from Notre Dame, and they're now members, student members of the Academy. We have representation here tonight from KIPP, New York City, which is public charter schools, middle schools, and they have 1 high school. We're honored to have them here as well. We have Iona College. That's kind of where I went to school. We have representation from All Hallows. So these are schools, and then we have nonprofit organizations, City Year, which is an enormous, a regionally significant not-for-profit that they just do tremendous work to city kids, and we have, which I'll mention later. And then Mentoring USA. Mentoring USA is, and I'll get into this later, but I was cold calling, believe it or not, Matilda Cuomo, right? So I was cold calling her. Now most people would say, what, you're cold calling the former First Lady of New York State? But it worked, and I'll tell you later on how it worked. But now there's also, so those are kind of the schools we deal with, the nonprofit organizations, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. My challenge now is to pull back rather than move forward, because we just don't have the bandwidth. But that's good news, by the way, and that problem I can solve, and it's a nice problem to have. But there's a couple of people I have to acknowledge, and one of them is sitting off to my right here, and these are people that were very inspirational. So Dan Kale, now he's smiling, he's laughing. He's just raised his hand, by the way. Dan and I worked for many years at MAI, I guess almost 10 years, many years ago, back in the 70s, yep. And so I called Dan about 2 years ago, and I said, Dan, let's have lunch, which we did. And I showed him my script of the academy. And Dan said, Ray, you're talking to the wrong person, even though I do a lot of charitable work, which he does up in Westport. He said, you need to speak to Nancy, my daughter. So I said, all right. So I called up Nancy and we met. And Nancy just fell in love with the model. And she said, Ray, I think this is going to work. So I want to thank you two for being partly responsible for what's happening tonight. Another person I want to recognize is Erica Hamilton, and she's sitting there saying, what the hell is he talking about? Well, I'll tell you what, Erica, I met you at City Year, 3 years ago, I'm going to guess now, right? And I was impressed, all right? Now, she's no longer at City Year. She was the executive director, but I was really impressed. I want you to know, even though you don't know, that you were very inspirational in what you see tonight. So we have 7 student members of the Academy here. They're going to come up later on for the awards presentation. You just can't get enough of these kids. I mean, they're just gorgeous, right? And so I hope during the cocktail hour that you got to meet some of these precious future leaders, I call them. And they're ambassadors tonight for this dinner because we have roughly now about 75 students. So we're about 10% of that representing here, so we kind of call them the ambassadors. One more acknowledgement. Summit Partners, they're sitting all the way to my left. I have to acknowledge them. They came down from Boston. That's a firm I worked for. They have been financially, but more importantly, emotionally supportive of this academy, and I want to thank them. So, okay, you're probably looking at this logo saying, what is that thing? So, well, it's a mountain, and it's children reaching up, right? And you say, well, where did this come from? It's an interesting story. So we're developing the website, and we have a bunch of high-tech social media folks in India, right? They're in India. And so I'm talking to the lead tech guy, and I said, when you're developing the website, I need a logo. And they said, Ray, no problem. So they sent me about, 6 different samples, and this is the one I picked. I personally love it, all right? So let me talk to the logo. It's the mountain. Right? And then you say to yourself, well, what does the Leadership Academy do? Which I'll explain in greater detail when we have the PowerPoint. But there's no elevator in that mountain, by the way. Right? So there's no elevator to success. It's one step at a time. Right? That's it. Now, I tell the students of the Academy, at some point, eventually, and they're all young yet, so they have yet to reach to the top of that mountain. But I say to them, once you get there, because I've been there, you're going to get a momentary thrill out of being at the top of the mountain, and it's going to be breathtaking looking down. Absolutely breathtaking. But that's not what it's all about. The thrill is all about the climb. And so that's what we promote, and that's what we teach at the Academy. You can reach the top of that mountain, and you get a kind of momentary thrill, but it's all in the climb, all right? And that's what we teach at the Academy. I met a couple of people that have climbed that mountain, by the way, and everyone that I meet, they say, I always go up with a guide. And I said, you what? Said, I always go up with a guide. I said, wait a minute, I thought you did this all by yourself. No, that's what we tell the press. I said, well, why do you need a guide? And they said, because a guide shows us the way, right? So that's what? Mentoring, right? So that's the logo. Now we're going to do a presentation, a PowerPoint. Do you like this logo? Maybe you don't. I don't know. I love it. All right. So the presentations, we think about why we do what do we do, and how do we do it, right? Those are the 3 metrics that guide the Academy. And I would argue that of those 3, the why part is the most important. And I know Frances is shaking her head because I think she would agree with this. And the why part is, why are we doing this, right? And so I said, okay, so we're not doing it for the money, because none of us are paid. We're not doing this for the fame, because a lot of the people, not only staff, but the advisory board members are very successful people, so they're not in it for the fame. So why are we doing this? And we're doing this because I realized a long time ago, you have to have passion to do this. This is not check the boxes, right? This is not, oh, I'm going to put my name out as a mentor and just go and mentor people. You have to believe in what you're doing. You have to care about people, right? And Frances keeps, every time Frances shakes her head, I know I'm on the right track. So we have a conviction at the Academy. We have a deep-seated passion and conviction to serve our communities and become significant in making a difference in someone's life. That's what we do. All right? That's the why. Now the what part. All right? The why part is the most significant because it's like strategic planning. If your strategy is wrong, you better hope you don't execute well. Right? So once we define the why, the what and the how, some of it's somewhat, execution oriented. So what do? We extend a helping hand. We provide financial assistance to those who may start out with all the advantages by ensuring that a deserving child in New York City community has an equal opportunity to achieve their untapped potential to become great leaders. And the more I deal with these kids, and they're 12, 13, 14 years old, you see it, right? These are the future leaders, and they're like sponges. So we embrace academic excellence. We embrace by allowing the schools to do what they do well. And we focus on developing leadership skills, and that's what we do. So we provide one-on-one mentoring, right? Now, I mentioned the climbers of all these mountains, and they all have guides, all right? So they're mentoring the people that are actually doing the climbing. We teach leadership skills, right? And I could argue that I could put 20 leaders in a room, and I'll probably get maybe 20 different opinions as to leadership because it's very fluid, it's not simple. But at the Academy, and this is based on my experience, we really simplified it. So we call it the 80-20 rule. So what's the 80-20 rule? Okay. So 80% of leadership, and I'm convinced of this, by the way, it's what we call a handshake and a smile. A handshake and a smile. However, the handshake can't be, it's got to be one of these, right? A lot of conviction, self-confidence, a firm handshake. Now, the smile just can't be any smile. It's got to be a sincere smile. Now, that person that you're engaging with, if it's not a sincere smile, they know, by the way. And then they become very cynical. So that's not leadership. Right? So that's the 80-20. So 80% is the handshake and the smile. The other 20%, that's the tough part. That's the tough part. So anyway, that's the 80-20. The other 80-20 rule we have, and I didn't make this up, I probably read this someplace, is empathetic toughness, leadership style, right? Empathetic toughness, now that's an oxymoron. I mean, that's contradictory. No, it's not. It's empathetic toughness. I call it the Peace Corps and the Marine Corps, right? And so that's our other 80-20 rule. And it's 80% empathy, right? And 20% toughness, all right? And so that's one of our 80-20 rules. Empathetic toughness is you first, as a leader, have to be caring of people to then demand their best. So caring, and then you have a right to demand their best, which is the tough part. We provide merit-based scholarships, high school and college. It could be as low as $2,000 a year for some of these high schools, up to maybe $5,000 or $10,000 a year for college. And so that's the third component of what we do. And how do we do what we do? All right, so I mentioned earlier, we do two things. We partner with schools, right? That's the academic side. And then we partner with nonprofit organizations in the communities. And so with the public schools, the public charter schools, the religious schools, we support and encourage academic excellence taught in the brick and mortar classroom. So we support and embrace, and we participate as student sponsors. So that's what the Academy does. We partner with nonprofit community organizations, Big Brother, Big Sister. Hopefully we'll be able to do something with City Year and other organizations. So we identify children in these communities who are eligible to become members of the Academy. We support our partners, right, with value-added services, and we complement and augment the value and the benefits they provide to their students. So we're very complementary. We don't compete. So they're good at what they do, and we're good at what we do, and you put the two together, and it's a formula for success. So that's what we do. These programs work because we share a common vision and a common mission. It's the only way they work. What's in the best interest of the child? So that comes first, right? At the Academy, we treat our student members as customers. Now, why is it customers, right? So Peter Drucker, Francis is now shaking her head again, so I'm on track. Peter Drucker talked about customers, right? And the reason why I call, and that's, by the way, that's a tribute to our student members. They're customers. And the reason why we call them customers, because this Academy will only succeed if we satisfy our customers. All right? So that's what we do. Let me give you a couple of data points, which is my own experience, which I think translates into why I'm doing what I'm doing. So at the Academy, we talk about, by the way, someone said, how do you teach leadership skills to a sixth grade student? So sixth grade, 12 years old, roughly. So I reached out to, one of them is here, G.H. Smart, and a couple of other industrial psychologists, and I said, can I teach leadership skills to a sixth grade student? Oh, by all means, you could probably go to the third grade. I said, you right? He said, yeah. So I met with this one student, and he was 12 years old, and I said, you might be a leader. And he looked at me and said, me? I says, you. And he said, I said, how many siblings do you have? He said, oh, I have 4. Are you the oldest? I'm the oldest. Any of them follow you around? Oh, they all follow me around. Guess what? You're a leader. Oh, but I don't have a title. I said, you don't need a title to be a leader. I said, you know what? I've known CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. They have no followers. They're just taking a walk in the park. So the kid looked at me, and he and his eyes were, and he says, I'm a leader. I said, you're a leader. He said, but I thought I need a title. I said, no, you don't need a title, but you're a leader. I elevated his confidence level by a factor of X, right? So anyway, so inflection points. And this is the critical mass of the Academy. When I was I guess I was in my 6th grade, and God bless teachers, right? My 6th grade math teacher comes up to me, true story, pats me on the back and says, boy, you have a gift for math. And I said, me? Yeah, you. I said, you got to be kidding. I said, no, I'm not kidding. He says, as a matter of fact, I want you to tutor some of these kids, for the whatever. So that was an inflection point, right? There was a game-changing event in my life early on, which was Cardinal Hayes. So I went to Cardinal Hayes High School. I would define Cardinal Hayes probably still the same way, maybe not to the same degree, as a military academy. Exactly what I needed, right? I mean, you sat in that classroom, you didn't say a peep, but you learned a lot, right? So that was a game-changing event. And there's one other data point, which I call my cousin Raymond, same name, right? And Raymond was a special person. He was probably 15, 20 years older than I am, and he's long since gone. But he was first-generation American. His 2 parents came from Italy. Harvard, Fulbright Scholar to Rome, economics, full scholarship to Columbia Law School, and became deputy counsel of a Fortune 500 company. Amazing. So we just happened to have the same first name. He was better looking than I, taller, had a full head of hair and all that. So they used to call me Pee-wee when I was growing up, but he was probably about a good 6 feet. But here's the inflection point. He didn't call himself a mentor at the time, but he used to take me to the Harvard Club for lunch, right? Now think about me at 16 years old, sitting in the Harvard Club with my cousin. I called him my cousin. That was awesome. So if you take those 3 data points, the Harvard Club, Cardinal Hayes, and that 6th grade math teacher, if that had not happened, I would not be here today. I'm convinced of that. So my message to our students who are here tonight, we're going to be those inflection points. We're going to pat you on the back, and we're going to try to make a difference. And Francis has to notice we're not going to fail, by the way. So, the 3-year plan, all right? I call it ambitious. It probably is. But we're going to facilitate after-school programs. We're going to focus on using technology. Now, I don't know if you picked up on it, but if you look at our advisory board, with the exception of Elliot, they're all high-tech folks. David Fall is right here. We have Shirley Ice. We have Greg Taylor. They all come out of the high-tech universe. Greg recently, not Greg, but Dave, social media, Google. He now heads up a company as a CEO. So we're high-tech centric. So a part of the offering of the Academy is to use technology to try to amplify and augment a lot of these subject matter skills. We're going to provide digital online offerings for the various workshops, which are mentoring and leadership. This is something that came up from City Year. They said, is there anything you can do relative to leadership training and mentoring that you can do online so our students just tap into a portal or whatever and they can absorb whatever it is they want to do? So we're going to do that, and that'll obviously expand our reach. We're going to expand the U.S. geographically. So the model now works in New York City. It's been proven. As a matter of fact, we're holding back. But we're going to go to Boston, Chicago, L.A., Baltimore, and there's a couple of other places. And so that's going to happen over the next so many years. And I'll make a prediction, and I'm probably going to give you a conservative number, but I'm committed that we're going to be over 500 students by 2021. 500 students, I should say. That's my commitment. I think it's a low number, but just to be safe. I had a recent conversation with a friend of mine, and we talked about South Africa, and I said, wow, that would be great. There's certainly a need. And he knows Oprah Winfrey very well. And he says, as a matter of fact, I just had dinner with her last week. I said, you got to be kidding. He says, no. He says, you want to meet her? I said, yes. So I will guarantee you, and it's not on this PowerPoint, don't feel let down if, or maybe you should, if in 2 years from now, at this one of these annual meetings, we're talking about South Africa. So that's all I have. And I just want to close by saying, this to me is special. And it's special because of the 7 student members that are here tonight. I am so proud of them. 2 of them just got into high school, right? They're just starting freshman year. And I said, so how'd you do? I said, how does it feel to be a freshman now in high school? And I said, so how did you do? Oh, I was an honor student. Oh, okay. And now I'm going. And then we have 2 seniors here of Notre Dame. What a school, right? And I said, so what is it like now going, somebody's shaking their hands. Okay. So what is it like going to college now? And so how did you do in high school? Honor student. full scholarship NYU. I see you gotta be, is that right? Yeah. And the next one I said, so how did you do? Yeah, honor student, full scholarship Loyola. Yeah. That's why we do what we do. Now, we're still young enough where we don't have a lot of kids graduating from high school and college, but that day will come. My only dream and wish, when we fast forward, whether it's 20, 30, 40 years from now, I want these students to look back at the academy just like I look back on my life and say they made a difference. That's it.